Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role-playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them. Hello, weirdos! This is Diogo Nogueira, and today we're gonna listen to a chat I had with Giuliano Roverato. Giuliano is the author of the award-winning Brave Zenith, who won Game of the Year by the Indie Game Design Network. He's also the author of Bacto's Terrifying Cuisine, a really special adventure that has been in the hearts of the indie game design community. And in this chat we talk about a lot of things that he finds weird, like how he finds the weirdness he loves and he draws from video games, books, like House of Leaves, which is a very special book that's designed its very unique way that you can have it in digital form, you have to have it physical. So it's something we talked about, how this could influence our game design. We talk about video games such as Disco Elysium, Dark Souls, Acid, Fear, Hunger, and so many more. We talk about superpower he would like to have, and all kinds of weird things, weird habits, and how all of this relates to our art, our creativity. And we had a lot of fun. We exchanged ideas and some kind of philosophy, and it was a great chat. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. And let's get weird with Giuliano Roverato. Hello, weirdos! Today I have here with me a fellow game designer from Brazil, award-winning game designer from Brave Zenith, Giuliano Roverato. Thanks for coming here. I'm so happy to finally see you face to face somehow and have some chat. We talk a lot in our group of Brazilian RPG creators too. But it's really nice to have you here and put a face to the name and just share a little bit about what you do, who you are. So how are you, Giuliano?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
So Giuliano, for people out there that don't know a lot about you, can you introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, how is your work, and share some small detail about you, some small weird habits, or the way you do coffee, like the way you like to pick your clothes, or anything like this.
Let me see. I'm Giuliano from Brazil. I'm 30 years old recently. Already feeling old. I've been doing RPG stuff for over 5 years now. I started by doing Bacto's Terrifying Cuisine, which was a pamphlet people seem to like. And most recently I did Brave Zenith, which I got right here, which was my my system that I made, fantasy system. I won an award last year at the IGDN, the Indie Groundbreaker Awards. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I do a lot of freelance work too for other publishers. I work for Soul Muppet, World Game Champ, and some other. I've done some work in video games too, but mostly are tabletop RPGs. Been my thing for a while, and weird habits. Trying to think of weird
necessarily
habits.
Weird habits. It can be then I don't know, like the way you dress, or have anybody said to you, oh, you're weird because of something you do, or some specific topic you like I'm like obsessed with, I don't know, UFOs or Transformers or Legos.
I got some on my work, not work, just work like everywhere. I have this habit where I like to open my window at night and meow into the night because I saw a video long ago, and I just do that because people don't believe I'll do that. I say I'll meow out the window, and I do that at work too. I just meow at the the meeting just to break the ice, and then that became my nickname at my current job.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen in your game a lot of whimsical, and in Brave Zenith you can play as cat people. What's your relation with cats? Like, do you like cats? Do you have cats? If you do have cats,
cats.
Like, how many do you do, and how? I don't know.
Now I only have one cat. She's not here. She always here, but not right now. I just love cats. I think they're funny. And they are like the perfect type of adventure, like talking RPGs. They are curious and they will probably die by curiosity, which is perfect. But yeah, the cat thing comes from like Monster Hunter 2, the video game. They got like these, they call them palicos at the game, and they're like these cats that help the hunters and they cook, and that's where like from Resident Evil specifically, they like cooking. That's their thing. That's where I kind of drew inspiration from. Just cats in general. They're really really nice. Don't
Cool.
don't need to take too much care of them.
Have you grown up with cats? Have you always liked cats,
Yeah,
or did? Okay, cool. Do you
I
like
always had
dogs
cats.
too, or more
Yeah,
like a
yeah. I had
cat
dogs, but
person?
I think dogs are yeah, definitely cat person. If I start a sentence, yeah, dogs, but of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
yeah. But I like dogs. I had dogs. My parents got dogs when I was a kid. Um, but I think dogs are just like when they when they die, it's sadder. I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. They're much more emotional than cats, right? Cats are kind of no emotions at first. Like, but of course, it's also sad. But I don't know. Just dogs. I
Yeah.
think they hit different. Um, Cats, I forget they would die. Like dogs, I remember they would die. I guess.
I see. And cats, they seem a little bit more morbid than dogs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They
They're.
they they have their pose, like they stalk in the dark in the night, or just their
Mhm.
eyes, and so they seem like creatures of the night somehow. So
Yeah,
maybe I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I get really emotional with my cats. My cats are really attached to me. I have four right now. We used to have six, but
Hmm.
two of them died of old age, and I love cats. I didn't grow up with cats. I grew up with dogs, and I always heard that saying that cats, they don't like the owners, they like the place, they're not trustworthy, and etc.
They-
And was until I had a girlfriend that I really got to interact with the cat and kind of live with the cat for a while, that I got really attached to them and saw them in a total different light. And today I love cats. And especially, yeah, you don't have to take so much care with the cat as you do with the dog. You don't have to walk them and do all those, like, I think dogs
Yeah,
demands a lot of attention, right?
yeah. That's the word, right? Cats don't need your attention. Like if you just leave them, they'll be just happy with that. They can play on their own. I do want another cat because it's better when they have other cats to play with.
Yeah,
But my cat is it's pretty nice. She's
yeah,
really lovable.
yeah.
She's very needy,
This,
but she's not here right now for some
yeah.
reason.
They seem like more their independent person. They seem to have
Yeah.
more personality and more independence, and I think that, at least for me, it's more interesting than a dog that's always demanding that I pay attention to him and do stuff. Although
Mhm.
I have a cat that always sometimes demands attention and just he he wants to get carried, so he jumps at me and I have to carry him
Oh,
and stuff like this.
my dream is to have a cat that wants to be carried. My cat
Yeah.
doesn't let me. She only sits on my lap occasionally, but that's it. She's
Yeah.
very anxious.
This one wants to go around in my shoulders like
Oh my
a
god.
pirate parrot. So I call him
Yeah.
Carrot, like a
Oh,
cat parrot. But he's a
that's
black
so
cat, so
cute.
it makes no sense for him to be a carrot.
I thought it was. I was
So
gonna ask if he's orange.
that's the fun part
That
of it, because that makes no fucking sense. Why are you calling your cat Carrot? And that makes no sense.
makes sense.
That's
Yeah,
the most
perfect.
fun part. Yeah.
That's the best.
So, so Giuliano, your work deals a lot with the weird and the whimsical and the unexpected, and then a mixture of fantasy with cartoon and anime and all these elements. Uh, that somehow I think it comes from your interest, and it makes it weird and unique. Uh, so can you talk a little
Mhm.
bit about where those inspirations come from? Where this whimsical and the fantastic and the dangerous. mix up in your imagination?
I think it comes from, well, a lot of it came from like reading RPG stuff on Google Plus, because there were like back then there were a lot of people who didn't actually like say they don't publish stuff for real, big quotation marks here, but it was just blog posts and that stuff. And that stuff was really, really weird, really out there. There was some really creative stuff. And that was what attracted me first, because I didn't know a lot of, there's like weird fiction, like people have this genre. I didn't know that stuff existed. I didn't know any of that. So that was my first contact. And then like, people were just highly creative, and they were like very open to collaborate. And I just kind of started doing that. And a lot of the stuff I'm inspired comes from video games, and also I'd say internet culture. Like a lot of stuff is just I love turning memes I see into pieces for an adventure, you know. And it's also very cool to take like basically internet culture from Brazil specifically too, and it's very cool to take that and turn it into an RPG thing, because it feels very weird for anyone who's not from Brazil. It feels very outlandish, but it's actually quite mundane, and a lot of stuff is just like looking at the world, the things, and if you take stuff from the normal world and you put them in a fantasy world, it becomes weird just by not making sense. Yeah, and a lot of, I guess, books. Everyone reads books, you know. Just recently read, it's even here, like House of Leaves. It's pretty weird, pretty good stuff. And yeah, I guess anime, video games. Video games are weird. They don't. They work in mysterious ways, especially the old ones. They have a mystery to them, right? People are rediscovering that a lot now. You see like a lot of haunted PS1 kind of games, haunted games in general. I think a lot of the weirdness comes from the fact that it's uncanny. A lot of the stuff doesn't. Games they are more realistic. Back then they were weirder and more experimental, and not necessarily um like represented reality. So it felt weird. And I guess my friends too. You know, I work with Brazen. If I work with Silva as well. He's a cartoonist and a comic book artist, I guess too. And he's really crazy. He's got a lot of ideas. And there's this one idea that I'm so excited to put in a book. Very soon I'll do it. That he came up with, and I asked, can I like do that on my RPG too? And he's like, yeah, and it's about the idea that internet is a liquid. So like people get internet on by tubes, and like there's a sewer of internet, and like what happens if you drink? What happens if you get addicted to internet? Like as if it's a drinkable thing. And that was a really weird thing he thought of, and I was like, pretty fun. Like the guy who comes to install your internet is actually a plumber. So it's just a stupid little idea. Like you say, internet is a liquid, and it becomes weird again.
Nice. Yeah. I have this saying that the internet was supposed. I have no. I've heard this, and I talk to people about this sometimes. Uh, that when the internet came about, we're like, oh, the internet, that's infinite knowledge, so we can learn anything and we can be intelligent. And over time, internet just making people dumber and dumber sometimes.
Yeah,
And
it ended up the opposite.
yeah. And we think about in the future maybe using the internet to be like smoking, you know. You have to be like in this special place. Oh, cool, I'm going to use the internet, so you go there, so you don't like spread this nastiness around. So you go to this special place, use the internet, and then you come back. So
yeah, it's funny. Like we actually joke about like what would happen if you like, okay, if internet's liquid, we can turn to a vapor, right? So you can smoke internet. We had that the same stupid idea.
yeah.
And like in Brazil, we have the expression when you do like I don't know, pirate the internet. You say you cat the internet, right? In a way,
Yeah, yeah,
internet cat. It's hard to translate. So we're like, what is an internet cat, right? What is that? Like, it's an actual cat. How does that work? Like people just make gallons of water, just transporting internet. Yeah, just some shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for people that don't know, here in Brazil, when sometimes people pirate stuff or like taking electricity without paying, like deviate the cables and stuff, we say they're making a cat of something. So
Yeah.
electricity cat would be somebody deviating the electricity cables and getting electricity for free. So they made a cat in the electricity or something like this.
It's a very specific Brazilian
Yeah,
this
yeah.
sentence.
It's very common
Hard to just
here,
name.
though. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And talking about how you take the Brazilian culture and these memes and things that are particular to you and your culture and put into your games, writing in the cover of Grey Zenith, you can
Yeah.
read all these things like pão de queijo or trem bom and you know, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of this spread around in the rest of the work as well. And can you give some of examples of this Brazilian specific culture elements that you inserted in your games, and some of them that made an impact in someone from our culture that commented something
Yeah.
to you about something that was interesting?
I don't think like people from outside Brazil, they don't notice it's something from Brazil. My
Oh yeah,
experience so far, like yeah, especially these more obvious things, they don't know. Like Brazil's not very well known in detail outside of Brazil
yeah.
and
I
like
meant
South
like
America.
an interesting thing. That, oh, and I really liked this, and this was
Oh
something
yeah,
from
yeah,
Brazil.
sure.
They didn't know that, but then like they commented something.
I don't remember like specifically. I don't remember anyone commenting on something, but
Yeah,
like they they kind of go, "Oh, this is so weird and different." It's like, yeah, or they don't actually. Yeah, I think the weirdness is how they describe it mostly. Because it's otherwise it's. I think the food in British is also like the most obvious one because a lot of it is not written; it's more like implied. So the
yeah.
foods we have in the game, they're like written like we have brigadeiro, pastel,
Oh
all
yeah,
those
yeah,
cliché, feijoada. Um, and that's I think where the biggest like,
yeah,
oh, okay, yeah, this is not
yeah.
like
You
it's not
mentioned that
it's
stuff
rude.
very nonchalantly and without giving too much explanation. Gets too much
Oh
into
yeah,
it.
sure.
And have you been asking about what is this or what is that? So do people just Google it nowadays and
I think they
get going
probably
with this?
Google.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know feijoada. How they say feijoada is more it's more common now than it
yeah,
used to be.
yeah.
But like
People ask me
pastel and
about it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's a little bit harder, and they're like the monsters are also like there are references like we have the
yeah,
bird here, Guará, which is it's a bird
yeah,
we
yeah.
have in
Very
Brazil.
particular to the Brazilian culture and
Yeah, and then there's the capybara
yeah,
monster
oh,
thing.
folklore.
Yeah, I
It's
just
a
try
very beautiful book.
to.
I was showing to my kid today, and oh, Daddy, can we play this? Oh, okay, yeah. Let me finish reading, it, and we will play something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the art is a big part of it for sure.
yeah,
Like a lot of work went to like one of my favorite references is like um people don't really get it. It's like this weapon right here. It's very hard to see in the camera, but
yeah.
it was a reference to like that the game we have on the street. I forgot the name.
Taco,
It's just taco, yeah, taco.
taco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be that. It was a bit hard to
Yeah,
translate, but it's
it
supposed to be
is
like
an
a
AD&D taco, guys. It's like
no,
a
yeah,
game
it's
with bats. Uh,
it's
that
kind
we
of
try
like
to knock the other person's. Sometimes it's a bottle.
cans.
Sometimes it's
Yeah,
a can, and has some
it's
similarities with baseball, but very
yeah,
basic.
yeah.
And it's just two people playing each other, and
And
it's
you play
fun.
with
Yeah,
like these. You play with a bunch of sticks of wood, and it's people play
yeah.
on the street,
Very
and
low
not so
budget.
much. Yeah,
Play on the
yeah,
yeah
very low budget.
nowadays. Yeah,
Nowadays,
it's
very hard
sad
because
how
too many cars.
yeah
Too many cars.
yeah it's sad how you don't see kids on the streets. It's apartment kids now, right? I don't know.
Even I am an apartment kid. My street we played, but then as the neighborhood got more apartments and stuff, we get too
Yeah,
many cars, and then we can't play on the street anymore.
no.
There's too many cars. Simple as that. And then but yeah, I got to play a bit, and it's really fun, and it's a cool like I thought, oh, what kind of blunt weapon I'm gonna have, and then I put that in. Of course, super fantasy take on it. But yeah, that kind of stuff is really fun. And when we were doing the art, we talk a lot with Silva um, about what we're trying to do, which the whole point of the game was to, oh, my cat's here now, was to not really reimagine, but like reinterpret things, right? So a lot of the rules ask you to interpret things like, okay, what does this adjective mean? What kind of adjective do you put on your spell? Like, what does the spell actually do? You have to interpret it. And a lot of that is also in the design of the world. Like, so it's a fantasy world, but it's actually a post-apocalyptic world. But people interpret the items as like fantasy things. So things that from our modern day, like an antenna becomes a shield, which is the easiest example I can remember right now. Or like the way, of course, places we know become dungeons, right? Because that's something I really like when games turn mundane places into dungeons, right? A
Yeah, I
shopping
love
mall is like a very,
yeah
yeah,
I love seeing mundane things in a new light and seeing
yeah,
new possibilities in them. That's great.
yeah. And a lot of that also came from, I wanted to play, I made this game specifically because I wanted to play with people who are not super into RPGs. And a lot of people are not into RPGs are not into fantasy. And fantasy has this thing of being like very corny, very nerdy, and people are sometimes are shy, or like they don't want to say fantasy stuff. Like, I'm not gonna talk to a cleric, or like, oh, and all the fantasy names and all that stuff, which nerds are more they like that stuff. So I wanted to make stuff that we can use words we use naturally, like not a dungeon, it's a shopping mall and these things, because I noticed that makes people more comfortable, and then they can start playing fantasy more, which is because when we talk sci-fi, talk horror, it's usually more approachable to like people who are not into RPGs, like fantasy, basically, because fantasy became this super nerd thing. Like sci-fi is everywhere nowadays, and horror is very easy, right? Because everyone understands horror. It's like it's often contemporary, so you're like, oh yeah, it's just playing myself, right? That's easy. And fantasy, people always struggle with that. Like when you start getting to like talking, especially when you get really into D&D. Like, I thought of clerics
Yeah,
because they're like,
elves. Yeah.
yeah, elves. People don't like
Wizards.
elves.
Yeah.
Wizards. People don't like saying the fantasy names, right? Like
Yeah.
Dritz, Durden. Like no
Yeah.
one likes that. Like people find that corny, right?
It got
Uh,
easier, right? I mean, D&D
no,
more
it's
popular than ever and etc. But yeah, like for the general public, even though the fantasy role playing game is bigger than ever, is
yeah,
still very small niche compared to board games, even, you
yeah.
know?
It's very,
Yeah.
very, very small. And fantasy is definitely more popular, but and a lot. My cat's moving my camera, but a lot of the fantasy now is it's we're talking about D&D 5e, obviously, like
Yeah.
the biggest game, but it's a very specific type of fantasy. It's a
Yeah.
very
True.
it's a fantasy that when someone mentions fantasy, medieval fantasy, you
It's
think of
very
that, which
contemporary. Yeah, it's very
yes, yes, yes,
contemporary, and people will identify it more easily because it speaks with some video games, some more
yes, yes,
like
yes.
genre fantasy, and some of the fantasy for indie games are really not that
Very,
at all.
yeah, like DCC has great adventures, but that shit
Yeah,
is weird. That shit is not approachable. That shit is gonna
yeah,
be like but it's so good. And of course when people
yeah,
actually play, that's also the thing.
yeah,
Like when people play these more weird fantasy games, they always love it because they people get it very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to make it more approachable, I guess. Uh, and I just like the weird shit. And all my games, they were like this mix between fantasy and post-apocalyptic, because I really like that. I don't remember where I got it, but I saw some old D&D material. It's from a specific book or some shit. Like they mentioned that basically D&D is like the world of fantasy is just a post-apocalyptic world when you start to think about it. And I love that idea. Like,
Yeah.
oh, fantasy, as we know, is just a post-apocalyptic world that's so far away from our reality that it became fantasy. And I love
Yeah.
that. I always did that. And then Brazen is just me doubling down on
Yeah.
that and make it
Lord of the
very
Rings
cool.
is post-apocalyptic. We had this great empire of Numenor and all this great age of elves, and everything was
Yeah, yeah.
great and good and awesome. And then came Morgoth and Sauron, and everything went to shit. And now he's coming back again. So it's kind of
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic too. Yeah,
yeah, a lot of fantasy is a lot of the indie old school fantasy has a bit of sci-fi into it, right? It's very
yeah,
hard not to mix the two actually, because when you get to sci-fi is just fantasy in space often,
yeah,
being very generic here, but like everything is fantasy. It's about thinking up things, right?
yeah,
Imagining, creative,
yeah.
and
Well, Neil Gaiman said that, so we can definitely say it too.
oh yeah.
Yeah, every fiction is fantasy because you're making up people doing things they didn't do in place that doesn't
Yeah,
exist, even if it's completely respecting the bounds of reality. It's all fantasy
still
because
fantasy,
nothing
still
happened.
fantasy.
Yeah, yeah,
And that is a very, very nice thing because that allows people to, I think that what gets people creating stuff, when
yeah,
they realize, oh, I can just make stuff that I like about a thing I like, and you don't have to care so much about genre. And a lot of indie adventures, like they don't really care about like specific genres, tropes. They mix everything. And that's what's very exciting, I think, about indie RPGs in general. It's just
yeah.
you get to see where people come from, the different influences, and they're very, very diverse, especially
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. That's what kind of this show is about. I want to get to know these people that are making this. I understand where they're coming from and how, and through that we will certainly understand how their work deals with these issues and bring these elements. So, and we were talking about all these weird things, but I wanted to ask you, what is weird for you? How would you define that? It's a completely personal definition, and
Yeah.
why do you like that, and why do you seek that in your work and even in your life and the things you experiment?
It, it's because weird for me is it's interesting. That's it. It's very simple. Like traditional common fantasy stuff. I love fantasy both of us, like stuff genres. But like when it's boring, it's so boring. I grew very bored with video games that deal with fantasy. Most of them are just like, wow, there's just nothing here. Like, there's nothing that makes, ooh, that was a. I'm looking for cool ideas, really, like weird little things.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like weird to me is something that makes me pull up my phone and write something down. It's kind of like this stuff that it's just
Makes you
not
see old
conventional.
things in new lights, right? Makes you
Yeah,
see, oh, I
perfect.
never thought about that. Yeah, I never saw that thing by this angle or something like this. It
Yeah,
can
and
be the old Dark Lord there and the hero to save, but it can
yes,
maybe do something to change this dynamic somehow and makes
give
it
me
unexpected.
something, yeah,
Yeah,
I need a little bit of spice, anything. And sometimes I play video games, and there are video games that are like, there's nothing here. Like, of course, a
yeah,
huge game, there's a little bit of things, but there's nothing, not
yeah,
a setting. And I'm often thinking about like setting the
yeah.
world, interesting
Seems like a
things.
remake of an old game, right? Oh, another Dark Lord, another group I have, another set of
Yeah,
artifacts I have together to fight him, and
yeah, and it's just not. There's nothing. There's no spice, I think. And that's what I like about the weird stuff. That's why I love finding weird stuff. And especially in video games, it's getting harder to find the weirder stuff. because video games are way more expensive to make than TTRPGs, and TTRPGs are way weirder, way funner than video games. Like I always think, like when my friends are playing, I'm gonna hot take here, but like
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 is very boring,
Oh
like
yeah.
in terms of like flavor and setting. But for my friends, it's like they fucking, oh my god, this is the
Oh
craziest
yeah.
shit ever. And it's like,
I've
oh, what if the hag wasn't evil? It's like that's the thing that gets me. Like people take the weird by being like, oh, I'm gonna take something and just gonna make it slightly different. Like Baldur's Gate does that all the time. It's like, okay, yes, 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 yes. But then the really cool weird shit's not there. It's not that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And RPGs are so great because it is so easy to get weird because you don't have budget. Like budget's imagination. So it's just you just say something, it exists. And that is super exciting. Of course, the game's a lot of fun because it lets you do things. Baldur's Gate 3, like it lets you do things in multiple
Yeah.
ways, it gives you freedom, but the
Well,
actual content is very, very vanilla, very
yeah, it's
normal.
Forgotten Helms, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Forgotten Helms is very, very vanilla, and
yeah,
I have this joke that says that the one time Forgotten Helms tried to do something weird, people hated, which is fourth edition. They made this world collides and the world changed, and there was all these weird things happening, and people hated it.
yeah.
And
They made like Neverwinter was this like floating city. They went
yeah,
to something different, right? And the thing is, Forgotten Realms was weird, like in the 80s and 90s. It was
yeah,
probably, but now
because
for
it wasn't
nowadays,
so detailed, because people was
yeah,
so obsessed with it. They wanted to write and specify everything. So there is nothing like in the fog for you to imagine. Everything's there, and
yes,
everything
yes,
it's how you would not how you would expect it, because as you grow, of course, there was a lot of twists and betrayals and stuff. But since it's all defined, you don't. There is this thing for you to look for you to be interested. As you said, it's the interest thing that you seek in the
yeah.
weird, right?
I guess that's the great way. There's no fog. I think the fog is a great metaphor. There's like nothing for you to, the thing that makes you think a little bit. You go like,
Yeah,
oh, what the hell is that?
yeah.
You know,
You see that shadow in the fog, and you seek it to
yeah,
see what the fuck is that? Yeah.
yeah, and you try to figure it out. And like I think, oh, my cat's attacking the microphone. I think the thing that like thinking about video games, like the one that people got really excited and people were like, this is really good. It was Disco Elysium, which is a big influence on my game too, because it was like they were trying different things. They were trying to make an exciting new world, like and to be like, okay, we're not gonna do the try as much, not do the tropes. And it's a game that's like set in a modern world, but it's 100% just a D&D adventure almost. Like I think they even like the developer said the game world was born from a D&D campaign they played, and then they just kept going forever and ever. And like you can see the fantasy there. Like this is absolutely like an RPG like stuff, but it's set in a different world. It's a weird little world. It's a world that's very much like our own, but like it's slightly different. And that there's always these little mysteries, these things. And it's a game that I know frustrates a lot of people because as much text as there is in the game, which is a lot, it doesn't explain stuff. It just lets you imagine things, lets you think about stuff. It gives you a lot of it trusts a lot in you, which is I think what I like a lot about the weirdest stuff. Is like it just trusts you a lot to think it up, imagine. Oh, one sec, I have to charge my computer.
We were talking about video games. We were talking about Disco Elysium,
Yes,
and
disco.
the way it leaves some stuff open for people to imagine. And how does that work? Do you think this leaving blanks in the word and not explaining everything and leaving something to the imagination of the player, do you think that works in video games and RPG in a similar
Oh,
way?
yeah, it works. It works differently, but I think it's as effective on both mediums. RPGs, of course, is always more just because uh, you can think up like this. I always get bummed when people who work in RPGs try to copy video games too much, because video games are very different language. They're very, very different. We have a very good thing in RPGs. Like, we don't have budgets in terms of like creating. Of course, we have art, but words are so cheap. You can write a shit ton of words and it creates entire worlds, possibilities. Video games, you have to limit, you have to create every action that
Yeah.
is possible, because if without the action, it doesn't exist, or you need systems that do that. And this thing about leaving blanks is it's just really good, because it allows you, I think it allows you to play the game when you're not playing, because you're thinking about it, you're like imagining it. And that
Yeah.
often leads, I think, and this is what I like, it leads to creativity. You start to think, you start, no, that's a really interesting idea. And you start to think, and then suddenly you start creating new things based on that, because there's no right answer. Like, I think the best example of video games like Dark Souls. It became like a huge community, a huge thing about a game that has barely any story in it, but like people found lore and tried to piece it together, and there's no answer. There will never be an answer, either by design or like they'll never tell you. uh but that's really fun for players. Like,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
specific to disco, I like what I like also in systems, like the when you see the hidden rules of it, like the hidden mechanics, the game doesn't tell you, but it's super fun. Like in Disco Elysium, you can take like you have a cap on your stats, but if you take drugs, it raises the cap, and then that allows you to level up your skills beyond their limit. The game never tells you that. It just lets you do that. Or like how it does never say drugs are bad for you, or like you get addicted if you take too many, because you get addicted by playing the game, because you go, oh, every time I'm gonna do this test, I'm gonna take this drug because it boosts my stats. And then like, oh, the game lets you get addicted without actually making it a rule for addiction. It did through its mechanics, but not saying there's a stat you have now which you're addicted. No, it addicts you by letting you play with it, uh, which is really fun.
A question: do you get any penalty if you like you're using this for a while,
Oh,
like
you
doing
get
this Vagarot, and
no,
after a while you get penalty without using it?
no, you don't. Like the idea of the game is you are an addict. You're always an addict. Your character
Ah,
is an
okay,
alcoholic, drug
okay.
user.
I thought you could get
Uh,
addicted and then you would feel it and then you
no,
should
yeah,
leave it
they
or
kind of
not
do
or
it
like.
like this. Like, you don't have to take drugs. You don't have ever. You can be like play straight edge, but like the game heavily wants you to do drugs, and the more
Yeah,
you
of
do it,
course.
the
Yeah,
more you want to do it, because it's so good. Like and like they're
yeah.
saying something about drugs to
I
you
was wondering
without
if
having.
there's any mechanic that
No,
worsens your character somehow afterwards or anything like
you're
this.
you're already way too bad. The
Okay.
drugs are like, you take damage and stuff, but like the drugs are uh they're super useful.
Yeah,
Because
of
even
course. Yeah,
if you play the game without doing drugs, it is so much harder. Like
yeah,
like it's that thing, like they tell you something without telling you
yeah.
something.
It's
Like,
it's not unheard of because a lot of those drugs, some of them were like invented as performance enhancement for like soldiers and stuff like this. So
yes, yes.
it makes total
They
sense.
even
Yeah,
have one. They have a drug like that in the game. I think they make very clear that it's just a military thing, and now like became a common drug. But yeah, these kind of details are really fun. Dark Souls also doesn't tell you shit about anything. Like, a lot of people finish Dark Souls. When I play Dark Souls, I finished like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, what any of this
yeah,
is. And then like people making 10-hour videos about it now. They're creating stuff, because none of everything they do is they take the descriptions and things and they create theories. Some are very plausible, but like they're theories. Like the
yeah,
developer, the designer never explicitly says it is like this, and that I think is really powerful. Which is like, because when you write a book, you give the book to people, and like they can do whatever they want. And they and Dark Souls is really good because they do that in video games, which does not often do that beyond like games that are made for modding and creating your own world. this is a very created experience, a very traditional RPG experience, but they let you play with the lore, they let you imagine it. And now, like, um, with more interviews and stuff, we know like Miyazaki, the guy who makes the games, he's really into fighting fantasy. He read like those choose your own adventure books. Like there's like in last game, I don't think there's like literally a guy he took from the book. It's like the same illustration, even he has the same weird pose, and like people are like, oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah,
Still like an
he grew up with
artist,
that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he
Fantastic.
grew up with that.
I was gonna ask about because you said video games are weirder than RPGs, and I was gonna ask about your favorite weird video games. You mentioned Disco Elysium and Dark Souls. Is there any other one would you like to mention?
Oh, I
Something
think
that you
one
really
that's
enjoy, or
yeah, there's like there's the ones that are really good, that I really love, but they're weird
anything
in a
you're playing
more
recently that you're like
yeah.
getting your attention and you're really enjoying?
There's Lunacid. I don't know how to pronounce. It's like lunacy with acid, lunacid. I don't know how they say it.
Lunacid.
It's a yeah, it's a really fun one. It's inspired by King's View, Dark Souls, all that stuff, but it's got some really fun twists of its
Psychedelic
own. It's got
stuff or no?
not
Is there
really
anything to do with
so
acids
far.
or no?
As far as I played, I didn't see anything. But it's got a cool
Okay.
setting that it's like it's a modern world that got invaded by monsters or something like that, and it regress into like points of light fantasy world, and that's super cool. And it's like, oh, they did the thing. So when you're exploring, you can find VHS tapes, but you're totally
Oh.
medieval guy. Like you got a sword, shield, magic, and
Nice.
it's really
Yeah.
cool. And it feels very weird. I'm trying to think
I'm gonna
other
check
ones
that
I
out.
played.
Sounds great.
It's
Is
really
it
it's
for PC or is what?
it's PC currently. It's early access, but it's really fun,
Okay.
really inspiring stuff. Like to, it's also very funny. Like they don't take it themselves too seriously.
No.
Um, I think Fear and Hunger too. That's a fun RPG Maker game. It's recently. It's very
Fear
much like
and
yeah. It reminds
Fear and Hunger too.
me. Yeah, there's the one became recently popular because of like streamers found it, like the popular streamers, but it's a really old RPG Maker game that's very much inspired by like it's gotta be inspired by tabletop RPGs. Like it is so good. In terms of like dungeon crawling. It's a really dungeon crawly game.
Mm.
And it's really fun what they do with like RPG Maker. It's very dark, very edgy. But it's nice. It's okay. It's not like nothing super
Yeah.
offensive.
Yeah.
Um,
We can
and it's
learn
got
even
some,
yeah. We
and
can
it's
learn
got
for
some really.
anything, even bad stuff. There's something to
Oh yeah,
learn, I think.
definitely. I love like even the most generic, boring stuff. I always try to find like some. There's always
Yeah.
something interesting. There's,
Yeah.
like I said, there's stuff that has
That's
nothing, but most
that's
things
the
have
eye of an
something.
artist right there. Yeah. You just
Yeah,
find because we have to. That's what we like. We seek what we can learn and grow, I think.
yeah. It's
And
always nicer to see something. Oh, go ahead.
talk about the way you said video games do this thing about discovering rules through play. Do you think we could do that with RPGs? I was reading about that in the course about game design that I was watching, and I was thinking about how this, the red box for JD had this solo adventure that as you were playing, we're teaching the rules, and I think that's
Hmm.
like the closest thing we got to it. It made me think about how I liked some rules to be hidden from the players, because we had all this movement recently about all the rules being player facing and the rules players understanding all the
Yes,
rules
yes.
of the game. And sometimes I think there's some rules that can be hidden, then can discover them through play, and that can be a part of the mystery of the game. And how do you
Yeah.
see that part of discovering rules and not being everything clear for the player in tabletop
uh,
role-playing games?
I think it's really cool because often, like when we say player skill in RPGs, it's basically build crafting, right? You make a really good character, or like in more old school RPGs, it's about knowing how the world works and like how this works. but like video, there's also this part of like figuring out the secret stuff, like how does the game work behind the scenes, which is why I like having like GMs, because GMs, it's cool when you don't know what the GM's doing. I think like when what rules are is playing with, like, so, and you start to try to understand what's going on behind the scenes, and you try to get player skill out of that. But also like when I think about that, like these secret rules, I mean like rules that are not written at all, like people naturally, like not even, I don't say rules, but like mechanics you find they're not written, but they work because of the way the
The
different
setting
rules
works, yeah.
interact. The setting, the mechanics. Like I'm trying to think of like an example in video games too. It's like there was used to be
Yeah,
this game
it's like
called
discovering this. You see this creature like walking by and attacking the villagers, and the village just runs and cross the river, and you realize that the creature just doesn't follow, and you realize maybe the creature is afraid of water, and they discover something through
no, I
play, you know,
what
or
yeah,
no?
that is also true, but like what I mean is it's very hard to explain, and it's not very, I don't think RPGs have really done it, tabletop RPGs, but like video games have that all the time, which is like there's this online game called Guns the Duel. It's like a third person shooter. It has wall running and all this stuff, and like the designers didn't intend for players to be able to do the things the players ended up doing. Like they discovered that if you slash, we had swords. If you slash the wall with a wall running, you could keep climbing infinitely, and then the game became another game because they had this, like this wasn't a written, like they didn't design that. Like, that's what I'm trying. This I guess that's the best way to say. The designer
Yeah, it
didn't design
happens.
these
Yeah,
rules, but these rules exist. Like there's this room to breathe. In RPGs, it's different because when we create something new, like a new rule, it becomes a new rule, basically. Like you turn that into something. But sometimes there are games like allow you to, by their own contradictions in rules, allow you to do things you shouldn't be able to do. I think that's what I wanted to say. Like beyond player skill in the sense, like you said, like oh, I see the monster doesn't follow people into the river, so I know like this monster
yeah,
fears water. That's one part of it, but there's the system mastery. Often boils down to I've read all the rules. I know how to make the perfect character. I know
yeah.
how it works. You never become creative with the rules. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. Like you never
I
break the
see. I see.
rules for real.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, there's a lot of stories in video game design about things that designers didn't intend to do, but the players discover, and that becomes a really focus of the game. And sometimes the whole game is redesigned to focus on these strategies. That happens a lot in play testing, especially. Like they're play testing the game's about this, and maybe a gadget. It's so cool. This gadget's so cool that
becomes the
people
whole thing.
just wanted to play with this, so they make this an integral part of the game. And that sometimes happen like in from Primal Quest, this adventure I made, Cave for
Mhm.
People. In the end, you finish making a drawing, like a group drawing of the adventure. And initially, that was something that was exclusively for the adventure. And but thinking about it and thinking about how I think about community building and something that the players can take out of the game, I figure out a way to incorporate that in the whole game. Like you can always come back to the cave of your people and tell your story, and that helps your tribe grow and you grow too. So that's something that was something that we discovered that people really liked it. People that grow through adventure see that as something really special because it's something they take out of the adventure. They play once and they can go back home with a drawing of the people they played, their friends, and I wanted
Yeah.
to make that something part of the game. So it's maybe I know it's not something like that, but it's something that people discovered. Sometimes you can exploit, and
Yeah,
even those games you said the climbing on the wall thing. Maybe initially they don't have anything focused on that, but maybe in a new DLC they can focus on this strategy and build the levels that they have to reach higher places and stuff.
yeah,
Right?
and I like, yeah, that's a good thing, and I think also like I'm drawing for video games, and I like to see that in RPGs, but maybe RPGs have a different language, like because
Yeah.
as much as RPGs are older than video games, like there's still a lot. we haven't really gone so deep because I don't know, just
Yeah.
no one has gone into that. But I love when that happens, like
Yeah,
when you're running the
investment
game.
too, right? We don't have a tenth of the
Yeah, no
investment
money,
of
no
video
money.
games, and people
Yeah.
experiment with this. I mean, I think we grew a lot in the past, I don't know, 10 years, because there's a lot of
Yes.
indie publishing has become really accessible. So there's people trying a lot, like stuff that Games Universe is doing, like the
Yes.
hexed boxes,
I was gonna say
the
that. Yeah.
vinyls, and all this
Even
notebooks,
like
these
more.
books that you interact with. I think we're really moving forward with these experimentations of the media, and yeah,
I was gonna say even like Moss Ritter. It's like you wouldn't like that would be a game that would be on Drive Through RPG no one would see. Now it's like I love showing people who come to my house. I have the box set and I show that they go like
yeah,
I want to play that. Like that's so cool.
of
And it's
course,
like
yeah,
the most old school RPG. It's like super old school RPG, like it's super
yeah.
deadly,
But
but
it's tactile, right?
yeah,
You can
you
play
can
with the
feel yeah.
things, yeah.
Yeah, and the books has a little fun cover, like the hole, and then people
Oh
are like,
yeah,
oh, uh, that's like art is a big part of course, drawing people. But like what you said about the mechanics that you see players doing, and then you incorporate that. I think I think that's a thing RPGs do very well, which is like I think everyone who's run a longer campaign style game always end up with that. Like people, you start a campaign like I don't know, we're gonna save the princess, whatever, and then it ends up being like we're just doing heists, and it becomes a heist game out of sudden, or
yeah,
like they buy a house in the city and now they want to run like a business, and it becomes all about that. And that's really the cool thing about RPGs. They can change, you can shift gears really easily. Like you can go
yeah,
from like dungeon crawling to like, oh, we're gonna manage the city, or like what D&D or like old D&D always did. It was like you start dungeon crawling, the end you're playing domain, like you're playing kings and queens and other stuff.
yeah,
That is the real power, I think, of RPGs. Like you can just
yeah.
it's so easy to adapt something and then create on top of that.
But I
Uh,
don't think it's everybody that does that. That's a
no,
strength
no.
of you and some gems, because I've played with gems that that's the story they want to tell, and no matter
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
do,
no.
that's what's gonna happen, and that's really
Yeah, I think
frustrating, at least for me. Yeah,
it is. I don't like that's the thing. I don't play with strangers too much anymore, especially GMs. Like when I'm a player, because I can't take that. Like I don't want that. That's boring. Like and honestly, like I hate that. But like these people, like you're not a writer. If I want a
yeah,
written story, I read a book or play a video game.
but that's
And
a heritage of, I think, of the '90s gaming,
oh,
because
totally the
there's always this focus
Ravenloft.
of, oh, the GM is a storyteller. It's always this thing,
Yeah,
you're telling a story to the players. So there's a
yeah, I don't
lot
like
of
that.
GMs
I
out
don't like
there,
that.
and then even game designers that they make adventures that are very linear, and they're telling this story,
Yes,
and the players are
yes,
basically like
along for the ride.
acting like in small spaces between doors that go to
No,
this,
I don't
and
like that. I don't like that at all. And that is something like I think the biggest quote unquote problem in RPGs, like that we should work together, is the community sense in the sense of like we need to change the play style. We need to incentivize better play styles for real. Like we need to get we need to understand that RPGs are not about one guy telling a story, because that's also what makes people go away when they realize like I'm playing this guy's story and I can't do anything, and that's boring.
uh,
When in
yeah,
reality, like RPGs, they get really fun when like everyone's playing, like everyone's creating the story, everyone's playing off each other, and like you said, adventure design has really, especially in more mainstream RPG stuff, has become linear, and I think also because of actual play culture, like it's more about the story, it's
yeah,
more about the spectacle, it's more like I want to live that. Like there's this really weird, I don't know if you know that in Brazil, there's this really weird thing going on in RPG, like the newer crowd, like Ordem Paranormal, like and stuff, like
yeah.
Paranormal
From
Order.
the Cell Beatty, or
Yes,
like
yes, like
it was a
the,
internet celebrity that made the game,
yeah,
right?
yeah, he made a really popular RPG. It's actually got bigger numbers than Critical Role. It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah, I did it some I work with game advertisement and kind of the stuff on my day job, and like I actually crunched the numbers. Like he's actually bigger than Critical Role, like in terms of like viewers, not of course not actual money,
Money,
but like
yeah.
viewers is insane. And
Especially
what
because
happens
our
is,
money is worth shit.
oh,
So yeah.
nothing, yeah. And like, but like what happened with, I'm on Twitter and I'm looking at these younger people who love this actual play, and what they want to play their RPG is they go, oh, you will be the guy on the stream, you'll be this guy on the stream, and we will reenact the stream. I'm like, what? And it's
Yeah.
a different culture. They want to reenact like the adventure. They
There's a
want
lot
to
of
live
people
the,
that want this. Yeah, that
yes,
want
and
this
yes,
guided adventure story
yeah,
and
and I don't know if it's like
kind of being
it's,
an actor, right?
and it
Yeah.
maybe it's a different thing. It's a new thing. It's more like how the new
No,
school
I
will
think there's
develop.
always been there because Ravenloft, Dragonlance, they were very popular.
Yeah, true.
There's a lot of people that like this kind of stuff. It's not something that I'm particularly interested. I find it boring. I find it very restricting. It makes me wonder what the hell I'm doing here if I can influence
Yes,
this.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
should be reading.
What I'm doing.
But I know there's a lot of people that identify with that. They wanna live through this experience.
Yeah, but what I find weird, like especially actual play, like most actual, as far as we all know, like most actual plays they're actually playing. They're like, of course, there's
Hmm,
storylines and stuff,
yeah,
but like they are improvising. Yeah,
yeah,
more
yeah,
popular ones are a little more scripted.
yeah.
Uh, but like when they see that, instead of them going, "Oh, I want to play RPGs," right?
Something like this. Yeah, I
They
wanna
go, "I
play in
want to
this
play."
world. You know.
Yeah, they actually go, "I want to play these exact same stream. I want to go step by step." Like it becomes a play, literally, and it's
Yeah.
so different from like when I think when I started playing later, like when I came back to RPGs, I think I saw some of those early actual plays on podcasts and stuff, and I was like, oh, and it was very natural playing. Like no voice actor voices, just people talking shit and doing stupid shit. And I was like, oh, I thought I was playing because we grew up with like the Ravenloft books, the Dragonlance, and these really scripted things. And when you went to play with friends, they never worked out. And then you think, oh, the game fucking sucks or I suck. And then you hear people actually playing like real, like
Yeah.
normal RPG, and you go, oh, that's it. It is so easy. It's so fun. It's so simple. And like, I mean, that's the part I don't like. Like this very scripted story thing, and when
Yeah.
it becomes this very demanding hobby for everyone. The GM has
Yeah. I
to
think
write
it's very
a
taxing
story.
for yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and players have to be like fucking actors. And then when you play this like more low stakes kind of stuff in terms of just when you treat RPGs as a game, not like a storytelling thing, it becomes much lighter experience. It becomes a much nicer hobby for I think everyone. And I'm not saying like, oh, you can have stories like that. It always, I don't know, I find people when you try to talk about this, it becomes like, oh, but what about stories? It's just gonna be dungeon crawling. I mean, I don't think I ever
The
played a
story
game.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, even in a mega dungeon, you're talking to
Yeah.
people. Like in a
Yeah.
game where it's only dungeon, it's still
It's
lots of role playing.
inevitable. Yeah. The human
Yeah,
mind cannot can't help but making a story of events that happen.
yes,
And it can
yeah,
be the
and
most
that's the
random
thing.
events. You will make a story out of it, no matter what.
Yeah, and like I think everyone has that. Like you end a session, and then when you talk about the session, it becomes the story. Like you create
Yeah.
a narrative out of it because and you go like that didn't actually happen exactly like that, but it created this really cool story. You tell everyone. Everyone's got
Yeah.
that adventure you went through, and you want to tell everyone like, no, I played on this game. Is like,
Yeah.
and I think that's what so exciting, and yeah, and I think a lot of that ties back to adventure design, like because like at the end of the day, like people really struggle to, I mean, from what I talk to people, like they really struggle when we talk about the games with GMs, like they really struggle. Like, oh, I have to make an adventure. I have to make an adventure. I have to. How do I make content? How do I make this? And then the adventures we have are linear, story-heavy things. They're really demanding on the GM. And then that
And
I think
gigantic. This story adventures,
gigantic.
they have big because they have like a big backstory and big
Yes,
explanation
and like every
and
NPC has
a
reams of text.
background, you know, yeah.
Yes, and then like when you actually show that, like a lot of the secret to GMing is that you actually don't know a lot of what's going on, but because you are in that position, and like naturally, I think when we, it's kind of like a social thing. Like when you put someone in a different position from you, it creates that idea of authority that they know
Yeah.
something you don't, when in fact they are as clueless as you are.
Yeah.
And then I think when people play with a good GM, they go like, "Oh man, they must have like books of
Tons. This
material."
world must be
Yeah, and then
gigantic
there's
and all detailed.
and then if you actually
Yeah.
talk to them, they go like, I don't know, just
It's
winged
a
it."
facade. It's a facade, you know. It's a
Yeah,
mask. It's a veil.
yes,
Yeah.
and then like I think people look to adventures to be like, okay, tell me what's the secret sauce, and like, and they try to do that in the adventures by making them linear stories, so it
Yeah.
can kind of go to your friends and go, oh, look at this incredible story I crafted. But like everyone knows, like the moment you throw these story heavy
Yeah.
things at players will go, no, I want to do the
Yeah.
other thing, and obviously that thing is not in the book. It's
Yeah.
different when you
And
make
sometimes there's
like,
all this background and history behind the adventure that has no use at all in the adventure. You're
yeah,
like, okay, why
people
do I need
never gonna
this?
ask. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this NPC, you're clearly like, he's not interesting at first, but he supposedly has like this huge background. Players are not gonna interact with him.
Yeah.
I really like what's on the Mothership, the new one, the Warden book, because it has a lot of great tips. I think lots of stuff
I
that
bet.
yeah. Have you read it?
I'm waiting for the physical copy because
Oh,
since I had a kid, I had this rule that I only read physical copies because I want to
oh,
make him see me reading a book and not reading through a
oh,
device or something, you
that
know.
oh, that's really good.
I just reading
But
device
yeah,
when I'm alone, you know, etc. But
no,
when I'm on the streets, when at home,
that's a good idea.
I always read books.
But like, there's such good advice there for like, of course, if you are an experienced GM, it's like stuff you know already. But like, I think for new players, new GMs specifically, it
But
is
it's
so good
always
because
useful to be reminded this stuff because
yeah, oh
we
yes,
always get
always.
ahead. Yeah, it's I
And,
love reading GM sections. I probably know a lot about this, but it's always something. Oh yeah, I have to remind me of this more often. You know.
yeah, but what I like about the Warden guide is that it goes, okay, yeah, GMing is simple. It's super easy. It's chill. You don't have to be a writer. You don't have to be genius story writer. It goes like, oh, make an NPC. Like, there's a really good part to say, make NPCs really cliche and shallow and funny voices, because most people, like players, won't go super deep with NPCs usually, and by the time they go, you have time to figure it out. And then if you make them more memorable, like you make them more memorable by being the simple, and it's easier for you to run. And there's lots of tips like this. How to one thing that I think more books need, and it's something I try to do in Brave Infinite, which is like, how do you prepare a session? Like, how do you do that? Like it's super fun
Yeah,
to do. Like I
I
think
heard
it's thing
Mothership would
more
do
books.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard they
and they
would
go
do
like,
this. How to start a campaign? How to make your
yeah,
first adventure.
they do like, they have a system to make adventures, and they have lots of examples for
Yeah,
everything, and they're basically
I'm excited
saying
for that.
things. Oh, it is so good, so good. The Word book's amazing.
I'm gonna steal it for
Uh,
Primal Quest for sure.
oh, I've, I already stole a lot of stuff from Mothership. It's too good, too good, and I think it's very. I think it takes away a lot of the mystery of GME, which I think it's very
Yeah,
much like,
yeah,
especially when you go and play with people who are super into more trad RPGs, not so much into indie RPGs. They like that persona of being like, oh, I'm the dungeon master, I'm a
the
mystery,
game
and it's like,
master. Yeah.
yes, and it's like, it's so easy, so simple, so much fun. I think the best
Yeah, it's so much
sessions,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, are the ones that where you're just like you're barely speaking. They are doing everything, and they're just listening, just going,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
going.
But you prepare, you created something, even through their input. Maybe not so much work, but somehow you arranged that situation that makes them want to interact with it for a long while, and that's something
Yes, yes.
really really
It,
pleasurable to do. Yeah,
and that's the thing about adventure design that I think the real thing like we should be working towards is creating these situations, right? Because
and
creating
let
these
players
situations,
lose there. Yeah,
yes, and that's actually very hard. It's much easier to write a story, a linear story, of course, but like RPGs are
yeah,
like immune to that shit. Like the
yeah.
moment players touch it, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Um,
They're gonna make their own story out of that.
yeah,
There can be a plot, there can be stuff happening, but the story that will emerge from play will be their own and based on the things they want to explore, the things they find interesting, and of course you can try to shape the experience, creating interesting stuff for them to explore in the adventure.
yes, yes. Oh, yeah,
But it's up
that's
to them to decide what the
yes,
story is about because that's what they will pursue.
and like your adventure has to be good in the sense that players want to play it not because you create a story they wanted to go from point A to B, but because like, oh, I want to know what's going on here. Like
Yeah,
it's called people call it hooks or something, but also like the content in the adventure. Like I like the adventure you wrote, Hall of the Blood King. I don't
House of the
remember.
Blood King.
House
Yeah.
of the Blood King. The moment people realize it's like the vampire castle, like okay, okay, we can talk, and then like you have an objective, but also it's a castle, and dimensional vampire castle. We can steal some shit, and then suddenly it becomes something else.
Yeah, and you can
Um,
get new objectives in the adventure. That
yeah, yeah.
something that I like
As you
too.
go,
As you discover new stuff, okay, you've discovered this, so maybe forget this
yeah,
thing we're doing. Let's do this
yeah.
thing. No.
That is the most common thing. You see the cool thing, and you go like, "Oh, we're gonna do." I think I GM the game. A game and I had like the stone hell, the first floor of stone hell, like it's free. And there's like a spinning wheel of fortune thing you can go in. And then basically that
Yeah,
became the game for weeks. Like they just we're gonna spin this wheel until we get like cause they got lucky and they got like you get like a diamond and it's like worth 10,000 GP. But there's like you just die or like you lose a level. They
yeah,
didn't know that, but then that became the whole thing. They're like, what and I
yeah.
created
That's the
added
discovering the rules thing you said. Like, let's play
yeah.
with this thing and discover it.
Let's see what it
Discover
does.
this
Yeah,
rule. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's great.
and that's why it's so cool. Like when things have an internal logic to them, because you can. It's like you're poking with a stick the machine, and then you can see how the machine works, and maybe you figure it out, maybe you don't. But there is a machine. It's very frustrating when like when you're playing like more these linear GMs or like when they do the quantum ogre thing, like they you
Yeah,
avoid a room and then they put
you,
the room in front of
yeah.
you. I'm like, I,
You
I
nullify the
chose not to
choice.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that is infuriating. Like that is
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah,
And like as old and boring as dungeons are, dungeons offer like such easy way for this type of play to happen because there's multiple doors, multiple places. And then but like the
yeah,
concept of a dungeon can be applied to like a social setting. Like the coolest dungeon thing you can do, like make a party in a big mansion. That is
yeah.
so much content. Like that's a lot of fun or like a castle, a vampire castle. Like the vampires are not necessarily hostile, and that's also a really
Yeah.
fun thing. Go to the dungeon. No one's hostile to you, but it's totally a dungeon. No one's initially hostile to you, and then like you're traversing the social dungeon basically, and it's a lot of fun too. The yeah, but like adventures, like we're I think we need more adventures in the sense of
Yeah.
like we need to go what types of like we know dungeons work, but what else works? Like there's some types of adventures that I don't see often anymore.
Yeah.
Like I think of Night of Blood from Warhammer. It's a really good adventure, really good setup. Like you don't see stuff like that anymore, or like investigative, like adventures that are not like super punishing or something like that, in like fantasy settings, because all this stuff works in
Yeah.
like more formats of adventures. Like it's really hard to think that when you're writing, which is like you of course you want to do
Yeah.
something new. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But
I
like
have this idea of an adventure with a map, and it's kind of domain based. So like you have to perform these rituals or 3 locations of the map, and kind of turn the map in kind of a board game in the adventure. So you have to allocate troops and stuff, but you still have to
oh
do like the focus on adventure thing. So that's something you can explore too. Explore how you incorporate other games into your adventure to make it play a little bit different, maybe. You know.
yeah, I'm really like lately I've done a lot of one shot adventures because I think they're a little bit easier. But like when you're trying to do longer adventures, it becomes much harder. For me at least, it becomes much harder how to tie it all together. How like when you make something bigger, how does it not become like a plot thing? It's so much harder, I think. But like
Yeah.
I'm what I really like and what I really like digging for uh when I'm looking for adventure stuff, it's like what is the setup? Like the setups are so like you realize the setups are so important, so much fun. Like I'm trying to read like last one I read, it's called Cross Stitched. It's a Morkborg adventure. And it's basically you go to this village, you're stuck in a time loop. I like, oh yes. And then like you can play around the time loop and break it, and that's a lot of fun. Or like I'm trying to remember this another one I read recently that had like a cool setup. It's just uh
Yeah, we can. If you remember, then
yeah,
we can
whatever.
get back to it. I
Oh,
think.
like
Uh,
the big squirm from Look Green.
oh, the big
Uh
squirrel. Yeah,
yeah, it is like it sets up detective investigation. It is so much
yeah.
fun, like and it's weird market
It's
cracks that
Troika,
happen.
so yeah.
Yeah, truck is a good example of weird. But I recently I GM'd that and I was like, oh, it is so much fun. It is so much fun. And it is an investigative adventure, done really, really well, really fun. I think and the players and that's the thing, because the way it is set up, the way it's presented to the players, they got it so fast. But sometimes you try to do like an investigative adventure and the players don't realize they have to investigate something. Like they don't get what they're doing. But this advantage, like they got so into it and it was so easy. And it was like it happened something that never happens. Like they're doing clearly they're doing exactly what the book wanted them to do. And it was so weird. Because you get like you get facts and then you can trace these facts to a source. But these are random, like they create like random connections. But they totally got like, oh, we can do this. And then the other part of the venture is like you can trade that information. You can trade these facts to the NPCs, and there's like systems to track it. And I didn't have to say that. They figured out they could just trade that because of the setup, the
Nice.
situation. And it was like, oh, it's so much fun. And they started and they started to piece together things because the way the clues are made, like even if it's random, you you kind of get a piece of everything you get a piece every time, and it is so much fun and super open. Like it tells a story, but
Is
there's
it
no railroading.
replayable? Every time you
Oh, it's
play, the corporate is
probably
different, or is it always the
no
same
no
thing?
it's always the same cause, but like
Corporate.
yeah, but
Okay.
there's so many ways to get there because like each clue is tied to a random NPC or sometimes a random faction, and like random encounters also can give you these
Yeah.
clues. Like as you play and explore this like neighborhood, things just fall into place very naturally, and you can spend a lot of time just trading clues and playing the factions. And there's no rush actually. Like for this adventure, there's like no time. It feels like there's a time pressure, but there's actually none that I remember of. And when you figure out, whoa, who's behind it all, it's super exciting. And there's a big showdown and all that. It's a lovely adventure, really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I gotta read that. Giuliano, you talk about a lot of weird things that have influenced you, have you consuming lately, like RPG adventures or video games. And you mentioned a book called House of Leaves. Uh,
Oh,
can you
yes,
talk a
right
little
here.
bit about your favorite weird bits about it and the stuff that's stuck to you?
Oh, I think and funny, I had heard about this book, and everyone talks about this book because recently too there was a Doom mod that was based off this book. It's called My House, and like you get the idea of a house leaves without even reading. Like it's a house that is like it's bigger on the inside, it's weird and non-Euclidean kind of stuff. And like I started writing, trying to do like an adventure inspired by this idea. But now after I read the book, I'm like, oh, this book does so much more than that, because the whole point of this book, and what I think we could really steal from it, is like it's I don't know if you know it, like it's basically an academic book that is commented by other people as you go through,
Okay.
and then it starts to get a page that showcases this. Oh, it's so easy to find, not to like the book starts to go weird, you know,
Oh, okay.
and it
Oh,
mimics like the feeling of the exploration of the house, but also there's multiple people commenting. It's very non-linear to read, which is how like I think most RPG books are read. Like you don't read them like, especially adventure, like as you play them as you GM, then you go from place A to place B. And this book does that, but it's a linear narrative in a way, but also not. And it's just really inspiring because of that, because of the variety of ways it presents. Like this is a spread in
okay.
the book,
Wow.
and it makes you
Yeah.
turn pages to kind of, oh, where am I, what's going on. And of course, like the house itself, it's really fun, the mechanics of it. Basically, like as you go, it creates new hallways, but when you turn back, there's no the place you came for is not there, and you can get lost, and it's like claustrophobic. But also, kind of the house, it molded by your intentions. So if you really want to leave, the distance will shorten. There's like this a stairwell they go down that at first it takes like a week to go down, and then something happens in the book and the guy falls down that, but the distance stretches so that it's longer than the length of the earth. So like he's stuck there, and that's like a dungeon like that. Like we need that, like a dungeon that's
Yeah.
crazy like that, in very hard, probably very hard to present, just like this book is.
Yeah.
But
I
it
just
is
added it
so.
to my card. Just added to my
Oh,
card. I want to check that out.
absolutely
Yeah.
read it. Check this book out. It is so much fun. It is so good. It is.
And obvious, there's no Kindle version because how would you do
Oh
that on Kindle? Yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
no, if there is a digital version, no, this book has to be, and that's
Yeah, you
something
have
really
to
cool.
have it physical, I
It's
think. Yeah,
physical. This is a
yeah,
book really. It's not. It cannot be a PDF.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah,
Okay, it could be because it's full of hyperlinks, if you will, where like,
yeah.
and there's a mystery to it. It's like what I really want to take out from this is like there's no one knows what the hell's going on. Like you don't even know if this book was real. Like that's the whole point of this book. Like what is real in this book? You cannot know. It's like Dark Souls. There's no answer. Like the wrote the book will never say it, and there's like tons of clues and mysteries inside the book. And a lot of the book's plot is like there's this guy that became obsessed with the house, and as you try to unravel the mystery of the book, you are mimicking the characters in the book, becoming obsessed with the book. I use like
Wow.
highlighters in the book because I wanted to figure it out, and then like before I knew it was like 6 a.m. and I'm on internet forums from 2000 trying to figure out what's going on. And then someone pointed out to me like that's exactly what's going on in the book too. People become obsessed with it. But I'm really curious about like what if you wrote an adventure and then someone edited your adventure and the edits are there and both of these exist at the same time, like the two versions of the dungeon at the same time, but they talk with each other. And that's something like I'm working on, playing with something I saw in a game, a video game, Dishonored that does this really cool. Dishonored, the guy who designs levels, one of the guys, he went on an interview and he had a shirt with a huge OSR. I'm like, I see you, because some of the stuff in that game is really good. And if you play the game, you go, oh, he knows. There's this stage in the game, this level.
There's an RPG for Dishonored now, right? There's a tabletop
no,
Dishonored RPG, yeah.
Nothing to, like it's bad. I'm
Did
sorry,
you check
it's
it
bad.
out?
Yes, it's awful.
Okay.
It's just like no, not good. And the whole thing about Dishonored is like
it's
the
money,
adventure
right?
is really
They
oh yeah, sure. They
yeah.
probably not a lot killing because Dishonored is not really popular like some other IPs.
Yeah,
But
but
like
yeah.
but this mission in particular is like you go to a mansion and you get this magical item that allows you to see the mansion in another time era, like another in the past, like an example. And you can see that at the same time, and you can jump between these different dimensions and and they are connected. For like, there's a safe you find in the present, and it's open. There's nothing inside, but you can see the code used to open the safe. So you go back to the past, open the safe, and then you create a paradox because you were the person that opened the safe because you saw that. But also like you can, as you explore, like imagine there's a shard of glass in front of you, and you can see one version of the dungeon, let's call it, and the other, and you can see the normal one, but you can see the other one through the glass. And it's all about traversing these different versions and trying to. It's a really fun one because there's also NPCs in the other one of the versions and the guards. And so you're sneaking, you're crawling, you're solving puzzles. It's really good. And the whole game's like that. The whole game's like, oh yeah, every mission's like kill this person. I was like, how do you do it? I don't know. Figure it out. It's crazy. There's so many options, and the exploration is amazing. But I'm thinking a lot about the House of Leaf now.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I really want to check it out. I have this huge list of books I want to read, but it's like one more, and then the way it's presented, it's something that makes want to explore and see how I can use that in RPGs too, I guess. And
yeah, I'm really like surprised no one has done anything like this. It's because I think it's really hard, but it's so interesting.
It made me it reminded me of some experiments people did with text-only dungeons, and the map of the dungeon was only text, and like the corridors was like a small strip of text with what's happening. Like bigger rooms really cool. Were like bigger blocks of text. That's something I don't know if you've seen this, but I'll try to look it up and put on the show notes. It reminded me of like, that. Yeah,
of like this. Like playing with the form, making it harder to read, but also the form is the text. And
it was cool. a dungeon map, but the dungeon was the map was all text. There was not a dungeon map, and then the descriptions. It was only the map, and the map was the map and the descriptions. It was interesting to see. I remember finding it very interesting.
And that's the thing, like sometimes like people do that once and it's like it doesn't quite hit the mark. Like we can build on that, like we can keep developing that. And I think that's why important that we steal from people.
We build upon each other's work. Yes. For sure. Hello weirdos, this is Diogo Nogueira and I'm back with a word from our sponsors. Me. I just released a new game called Cosmosaurus, in which you play a dinosaur space ranger who protects the galaxy from evil threats such as slime bankers, undead pirates, and Cosmosaurus from a void dimension. It's a game with a runes-light system inspired by Forged in the Dark and Lasers and Feelings. It comes with a bunch of tables for you to generate content for it. If you know my games, they're really easy to play and they have tools to help you improvise and play with low prep. It's an ideal game for one-shots, short campaigns, and introducing new people to the hobby, and it's a really perfect family game. I play with my kids all the time. It's a game inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. It's really well illustrated by Lucas Kowalski from Poland, and with a great layout by Guilherme Gontijo. It's a really fun game. You should check it out on DriveThruRPG, itch.io, or exclusively in print on exaltedfurner.com. I have many other games there, check them out. All the links are in the show notes, so click there. And let's get back to Weird with our chat. Giuliano, talking a little bit about the weird in ourselves and the things that happen to us. I know we explored a lot of things that surround us, but I wanted to ask you about weird experience that you had, maybe in altered states of perception or reality, or maybe meditation, or psychedelics, or dreams, hypnosis, or anything. Have you had any kind of experience like this? And if you did, how was it? And how made you feel? Made you see things differently?
Oh, definitely doing drugs are a bit hallucinogenic drugs are very interesting. I've done them recently, like never done them before in my life, and it was a very weird experience. I wasn't because you hear a lot about it, and I thought it was going to be like this wild thing, and it's actually very subdued and very
It can vary
like
a lot. I think it can be very subdued, and some people it can be something.
no, yeah,
Um,
but to me it was like and this is something I like. It felt like everything was new again, like the world was new, everything you could touch, it's beautiful. Now I think that's really that was a really cool part of it. Like you remember things that you forgot about, like you have a deeper appreciation of life, and
yeah,
also like
that's one
it
of my
also
favorite
made
things about it. Yeah, because I think that sticks with you even after like
yes,
if you've used it. There's like this saying that I've heard that's uh, when you take this hallucinogenic or something, you take this elevator to a really tall mountain, and you can see all the world around you from
yes,
the top, and you can see all these beautiful things that when you are on the ground you can't see it, and then you get back down and you can't see it again, but you remember the view, even though you went back
yes.
down, you can see everything, and then you still remember the view, and that really helps you. And I don't know, when I started taking it was because of anxiety and stuff, and
Oh,
people were
nice.
taking for a lot of traumas, and it helps a lot. So
Yes, some people do that. Like they do microdose to try to do that because the thing about
yeah, I increased it
hallucinogenics,
afterwards, of course, but yeah.
but the thing about these drugs, they are not like what happens is you're not just seeing like oh crazy stuff, oh so weird. You're also
No.
seeing yourself a lot of the times because your mind is like has no brakes, so it just keeps
Yeah.
going, and you're gonna be thinking a lot. You're gonna be going inside
Making new
your
connections that you didn't have.
yes,
Yeah.
and the thing is like I heard like my partner said like you're not gonna be able to sleep while you're doing this, and you can't. I could not because your brain's like on fire. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're fast or something, but like you're thinking. Your mind just goes like it just starts making
Yeah,
crazy
one thing
connections all the
leads
time.
to another, and sometimes you understand things you didn't understand before, you realize how things are connected, and
Yes,
yeah.
yes. That was when I did have hypnosis too. Like I had a friend who did it, and we played RPGs while we were doing it, and it was
Oh
really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, because we were like going down the dungeon was like a thing. It's just very simple, but it was really very cool. Because the whole thing about hypnosis is
Wow.
if you get into the like you have to be wanting to participate,
Yeah.
and it's a really fun because what it is just like it's giving you a path you're gonna think through. Like you're thinking this way, and it's gonna make you. It's just you playing with your own mind, and it's really fun. Like you can, there's like this thing you can do. Like you can imagine you're eating things, and you can taste them, and but it's basically just you
Wow.
remembering things and textures. It's really about being really focused, which is really fun. Like you're not being
That's great.
controlled
Yeah.
at any point. It's really fun. It's really
Wow.
very light, very fun. And I remember that because we played RPGs, and one of my friends, he got so into it. He was like in there. He was in the dungeon. It was very exciting. It's very nerdy application of hypnosis.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
love this idea. I want to try it soon. I think that would be fun. Yeah.
oh, it's super fun,
And
super fun. No, go ahead.
do you have dreams? Do you remember your dreams, or
Oh,
is that something that
yes,
happens to you? Or
yes. I have a dream diary because of therapy. I
wow,
started taking
great.
them down. And okay, very rarely I have like lucid dreams, but that was a thing I tried to do when I was a teenager. I was like, I want to have a lucid dream because I can imagine whatever how I want, you know. And it's very hard. And I think dreams to me are very confusing because a lot of times
Do you do
I don't.
anything to dream? Do you do anything before
No,
going to
no,
sleep to dream,
I
or
don't think
okay?
I do. What I do is like the moment I wake up, I take my phone and like my notes on my phone, I can't scroll down because it freezes my cell phone nowadays. Because I write down everything that an idea I have, I write it down, and then when I dream, I wake up and I go, what did I try to recap my dream, and like rereading your dreams is insane. It's like nothing makes sense. It's crazy. uh, I don't think I ever like use something from my dreams, but like it's a weird thing to like write down your dream and then read it out loud, and like you start to realize things about what was that dream actually about, and it's really fun to do that. And yeah, like that's the best tip I think. Not weird, but like best tip I ever got from a music teacher was like write everything down because then when
Yeah,
your mind doesn't get full of ideas, like your ideas are on paper, so you can have new ideas,
yeah.
so you
You can
can
have
discuss
more.
the ideas.
You open space. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's literally like
great.
you're unloading because while the idea is there, your brain's going, that idea, that
Yeah,
idea,
yeah,
that idea.
yeah. And
And then like
that helps with everything, like even anxiety. You have this
yes, yes,
something that you're worrying about. Just put it on paper. Say, I will deal with this later, and open up for new things to come. That's a great way to do with creativity. And I'm sure you said you
yes,
never
yes, yes.
stole anything for your dreams directly, but I'm sure they were like in the compost pile of your subconscious, just feeding new ideas for you to
Oh,
use, even
of
though
course.
it's not directly. Yeah.
Like yeah, when we say stealing, is not of course stealing. It's like you get inspired and you and that idea you hear, you see, and then you take that idea and then you develop in something new. That is
Yeah.
really fun. Like I did that. There's an
Yeah.
adventure I'm writing that like I said, I like Night of Blood, which is this adventure for Warhammer Fantasy. It's really good, but the way it was written, the original one, is very like they wanted to be like scripted, but it works without being scripted. It's really good because of that. And then I like, I want to write this adventure. I want to do this adventure again, like, but written
Yeah.
more in a
Yeah.
different format. And then as I did that, it became something new, became something new, and then
Yeah, it always,
it's
yeah, it
nothing
always,
like the original.
that's the still I cannot say, you can help putting out something we take from others with our own experience. I say still a lot because it's being inspired by very passive. It's something like something other people do to you. But I think inspiration is very active, like stealing. Like you go after that thing and you take it from you and you make something new. So that's why I like that. Why I say still a lot because more uh it's more active. It's kind of more playful too. Like, oh, I'm stealing this. And no, of course not stealing
Yes,
because it's out
and
there.
you said something that I really like that people I don't think people realize, like especially people when you talk to people and they go like, ah, I want to write, I wanted to do something, and they ask a lot of stuff, and like, of course, the answer is always just right, but like it's because we we're not taught that creativity can be trained. You can train creativity. You can become more creative by doing these things,
Yeah,
the exercise,
habits.
stealing. Yeah, and it's really cool when you realize, oh, everything's a skill, so you can train it. You can become good at it.
Yeah.
And like at first you're gonna have bad ideas, boring ideas, but the more you do it, the
Yeah.
more stuff you dig out of your brain.
Yeah. The
But you
real
gotta
gap
do it.
is between doing something and doing nothing, because as you start, you can get better. But if you're always
Yes,
worrying about, oh, my ideas aren't good enough, I have to study
exactly.
more. If you never
Don't don't.
start, you're never
You never.
getting anywhere. Yeah.
It is infuriating when like and people keep asking like I'm talking like this because I did like a course on comic books, and people are like, how do I do this, how do this, and the teacher only thing he could say is like, we're doing it, we're trying to write, just write, and they wouldn't write, it's like, and
Yeah.
like, oh, I have this idea, this one book, it's gonna be
Yeah.
amazing, it's gonna be the best one in the world,
Yeah.
like
I like to say
you're
ideas
on.
are worth nothing. Everybody has idea.
Yes,
Execution is everything. You have to put your ass I've just read a book that the title is "Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Is." Like, that's what you want to do. You have to put your ass there and just do it. It can be
Yeah, I
shitty,
like
but you can make it better after you finish. You can always,
oh
do
that
something
that's the
else next time. Finish stuff, and then you do better next
yes,
one.
the best tip I read on these things, like actual practical good shit. The guy who did a lot of the scripts for Simpsons, he said it's a lot easier to edit something that is shit than to write. So it's like just write and then you can fix
Yeah,
it. That's the crazy thing. You can just,
yeah,
but you can't fix it if it doesn't exist, if it's not
yeah.
there. You can't improve it if it's not there.
Mm.
It's a lot easier to go over to build on top of something. If you don't got
Yeah,
anything, you can't build on something.
yeah.
It's that simple. You just
It's
gotta do the
true.
work every time. Do the work.
And Giuliano, talking about something a little bit more personal and about beliefs and then spirituality and then I don't know anything. Do you have things that you believe, like weird things, like it can be like religion, because let's be honest, every religion is it's
Mhm.
weird because believed in something
Oh,
metaphysical or
it is so fun when you start thinking about religion. Like religion is weird. Even
yeah,
Christianity is so weird. Like because that's what
yeah.
we're more in touch in Brazil here.
It doesn't seem weird because it's old, but you see
Yes,
Scientology, it's weird as fuck because it's new. If Scientology was like 5,000 years old, would take it
would
more
be like
seriously, probably. But like
yeah, and
I don't know, it's anything that's you identify it like spiritual, religiously, or like
I like to say that I believe in I'm gonna sound very corny, but like, I believe in humanity. Like I like people. Like what inspires me, what gives me hope, like what's my faith, as you will, is when I see people doing incredible stuff. Like when I see art, that inspires me, and I love them because I believe despite it all, like I believe in the goodness of people. People are good, but also like I don't know. I don't think I believe. I don't follow any traditional religions, but like I believe that there's got to be
do you believe in
something,
God?
like not God in the Christian sense, but like the universe. There's something there. Like not, I don't know if it's energy or
Consciousness or something like that.
something. There's got to be something. Like I'm not saying like it has to have meaning, but like there is something behind existence. And like I believe
Yeah.
in luck. I believe in like these things are beliefs too. Like these
Do you believe in
um
luck? Like being lucky or unlucky or
yes,
something? Oh yeah.
of course. I have like rituals and things. I have lucky shirts and that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, that's what something I want to
Uh
ask you. Like, do you have weird rituals for creating your art, or when you're working, do you do
mm,
anything before you start working, or
oh, there are things I like a little. I like drinking Coke. Just like I'm addicted. I should stop. But I drink a lot of Coke. But like I like doing that. I like writing in during the really late in night. I like opening the window and seeing there's no one awake in the other buildings. That's something I
okay,
like, kind of ritual. I also like when I'm starting to have an idea. Like I'm gonna develop. I had this idea. I want to develop it before I sit down to write. I like to walk around. I talk to myself too. Like I do that a lot. I walk around and talk to myself, and then I have a notebook somewhere that I go and I write down things, and I go, oh, I draw things that I need to remember.
what's a physical
Uh,
notebook or like you said it with
physical,
your app?
physical.
Okay,
This time, like when I go this, I do like physical. I have a bunch of them. I have one right next to me. Um, and I always like to keep these things handy to like something, always something to write down. But I
yeah,
like walking around and just talking to myself out loud and trying to see how it feels. I know, just develop the idea. But I like doing that at night, so my neighbors probably think I'm crazy. Late at
yeah,
night, like
yeah. That's something you have in common with cats. Cats do
oh yeah,
most of their work at night. Yeah,
yeah, and I hate like when I sit down. That's why I don't like writing during the day, because when I sit down to do this, I hate being interrupted.
Oh
Anything
yeah.
really. Just like I don't like, even if it's someone ring me, send me a message. No one's awake. No one's gonna send me a message, and I can't
Yeah.
get away from the fucking phone. So I'm gonna see the message, and then on Twitter and stuff like
Yeah.
at
Phones
late
are
night. No
really
one's
something bad for me too. Like they
Oh,
really get
it's
me out of yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. We should definitely cut down. Like the
Destroy
more,
these things, yeah.
oh,
Why did
it's
we
like
invent this? Why?
the problem is I wanted to delete all my social media, but like aside from Twitter, which I actually enjoy, like Instagram, Facebook, I have to have them because of work, and
Yeah.
I hate that. And I can't get off my phone. Um,
But I
but
got
I
yeah, I this solitude thing for creation, it's very important. A lot of artists have this too. Most of the time I do this too. Like I wake up before my partner and my kid wake up to either do
Mhm.
work my day job or to work on my art. And when they go to bed, I stay up late and work on my stuff
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Also, I like I don't know. I remember now another weird habit. Like I really like when I go to write, I pick out a song. It doesn't. It has to be cannot have lyrics, or the lyrics I cannot understand them, because when I hear people talking, I get
Yeah,
distracted, even if it's lyrics.
same.
And I choose one song, I put on loop, and I write
Just
for
one?
hours. One
Wow.
song. I don't think I think it's like,
What was the last song you put? You were
oh my God,
listening
let me
to?
check. It's on my, oh, it's an anime song. It's an anime song from an anime I remember, because it had a. I like getting the vibe, but sometimes it doesn't not has nothing to do with the fucking thing I'm writing. But sometimes it helps. The last one was from an anime called Monogatari, and it's this song here.
Yeah, you can send me a link there. We can put it
Yeah,
on
it's just
some.
it's just
Yeah.
really nice and chill, and
Okay.
it's
I've been
super
listening
anime.
to like lo-fi, like beat songs. I subscribe to this app called Brain FM that says
Oh,
that the
no, I don't
music
know.
increases your cerebral activity and stuff to focus or relax or sleep or anything. So
Yeah,
it's been helping me
uh,
like to read in the subway or something or to concentrate on work. I don't know.
yeah, it helps me. It helps me concentrate. Like this. That's why I like one song, because I don't know. The repetition helps me concentrate,
Yeah.
and like it. Yeah, I just get that. Like last one I was listening before that was it was Kokomo from the Beach Boys, because I was like, yes, I got
Yeah,
addicted to that
great,
one
great,
song.
great, great. Yeah,
It's
Beach
an
Boys.
okay song.
It's
This
great. I love Beach
funny enough,
Boys.
I said I don't like one of the lyrics. I can understand that one. I can, but it's just so good, so
Yeah, it's
catchy.
so chill. It's Beach Boys. Some moves are like so. Yeah, that music is so smooth. That's probably
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stays in the background for sure. So, Giuliano, what about other weird stuff that you might believe in or not? Like, do you believe in ghosts, aliens, any kind of conspiracy, or like
Mm.
cryptics, uh, anything like this?
Oh man, I really want to believe in cryptid, but it's really hard.
Oh, but
I
there's
don't
people
know.
that really believe. There's people
No,
that say, "Oh, I
I don't.
saw something." Yeah,
No, I don't believe like that. But I like them a lot. I like them a lot. I
yeah. The idea
like
of them is yeah,
yeah,
great.
cryptids, like the SCP, like that stuff. Like, you don't know if you know
Oh yeah, yeah,
the redacted stuff. I love that kind
yeah.
of stuff, the fake creative stuff. Um, but like in terms of I believe I gotta believe in aliens. Like it's just I don't know. I
Have
believe
you
in
ever had
math.
any experience? Have you seen a
No,
UFO
no,
or
no,
no?
no. But I believe in the sense like I would not live to see it, but one day we're gonna find something. We have
Yeah,
to find something. Because
and
like
ghosts.
ghosts, I don't know. I don't know. I think
Never had any experience with
I
ghosts too?
have like
Ah,
unexplained things, like weird noises in the house, things touching me when there's no one here.
tell
Um,
us. Tell us more.
I can't remember the except like
Okay.
less. last week I was in the bathroom and late at night, and then like I turned and I felt my towel touching me in my back, but I there was no towel in my bathroom at the time, and it was just weird. It's like, what happened? Sometimes I like, and it's the problem like sleeping really late. Sometimes I get so sleepy that you start to be like between awake and asleep, and then things get really weird, and I don't remember
Oh,
what was real, if it happened, if sometimes I'm talking to people and like I hear voices. A lot of
wow.
times I hear like I think I heard something, and that creeps me out sometimes. Well, I don't know. I think it can be yes. Like
Yes, yes.
some weird shit. I like to believe yes because it's funner. Because the reality is just boring. If it's like, oh, it's a pipe, it's like, oh no, it's a cool little ghost.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Were you afraid of these things? Were kids? Were you always interested? Do you always saw this? Because I'm
oh,
very interested in this kind of stuff now, but as a kid, I was like super scared of
no,
anything,
I love horror stuff. I always liked it. I was super scared, but I kept at it. Like horror games. I remember there's this TV show. I have no idea what its name was, but it showed late at night. It was for kids. It was like super chill, but it was like there was this black screen and smoke, and then like kids would be like, "Did you know about the legend of the thing?" And then they would go like this black and white thing showing this spooky place. And then I love that kind of stuff. I was super scared. I had nightmares from like games. There are certain games that I saw my brother. I watched my brother play. My brother's way older than me, and he played video games, and he loved horror games. And he was like, I couldn't sleep for weeks, but I had to watch it. And then when I went to play it as an adult, I was like, I can do this. I still got scared.
Wow.
I love horror, but I'm really scary. This is another weird thing. I thought this is my partner, and I demonstrated this skill, this useless skill I have. I can scare myself at will. Like, I can
How
just
does that work?
like
Yeah.
no, I don't know. I just remember the feeling of being scared, and I
Ah,
just
okay.
scared myself. But it's for real. Like I get sweaty hands and stuff. It's like
That's a weird thing
useless
to
skill.
share. Yeah. Like I can
Yeah, I
scare
remember
myself.
that.
Like, whoa, wow, what the hell is that?
Like when I have hiccups, I can
Oh
solve
yeah.
them. I can just what
Wow, that's great.
like that.
That's
uh,
fantastic.
it's
So
so dumb.
I was gonna ask. I ask now. Guess if you could have any superpower, what would you choose to have? But you already have one. You can scare yourself anytime you want. But if you could
If
have
I
another superpower, what would it be and why?
It's time stop, of course, time stop,
Time
because you
stop.
just have more time.
What would you do? Okay,
Uh, it's
but
so
wouldn't
dumb.
everything else wouldn't stop? Or would just you stop? Or would
No,
just
it's like the spell. Like I can move and do stuff, but everything else is stopped. Because it would be just like so I could do things I don't want to do at a certain time. I could just do it, and then like okay, so I have the whole day. I can sleep more. I use for
oh, I have
really
to do the dishes.
boring
So
stuff.
stop time. You do the
Yes,
dishes, and it's
yes.
done.
I'd use it for the most mundane shit. I remember there's this like this TV show, weird kids TV show too. That the guy the character had a stopwatch. You could stop time, and he would never use it for cool stuff. He would always use it for boring stuff, and that was the whole point. And I was like, I like that. I would totally use that. Um, or to get out of trouble, of course. I'm just like I'm just gonna slip away right here.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
oh
sure.
yeah, that's the one I think the most. I actually think a lot about that. Like, oh, stop time.
That would be
Ah,
very useful for sure. Yeah. Like doing,
yeah.
oh, I gotta write this stuff. I gotta, sometimes
No,
I wish I
there's
had clones to do more stuff. But
yes,
yeah.
because when you because I'm feeling this more like I'm getting older, and like you get more stuff you have to do, and
Yeah.
then like your time starts getting smaller and smaller. Like one of the problems,
Yes.
you start going to the doctor, and that shit takes time. It's like no,
Yeah.
I don't have kids, yeah. So I'm dreading that. Like I know
And
it's like
scheduling the doctor takes even more time than
no,
going to the
no,
doctor.
I hate
Yeah.
scheduling doctors.
Yeah. It's
I hate this
terrible.
shit. and then work gets more work, and then you have to
Yeah.
take care of your home. You
Yes. Clean the
have to
house.
cook. I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, the dishes.
Take
I think I saw
the
someone.
dishes. Yeah. The
I think I saw like a meme, and it's like some dude like laughing at Sisyphus, like the guy who rolls the rock up, and then he goes
yeah.
like, "Is you?" And then like guy doing dishes. I'm like, ah, yeah,
Yeah.
fucking got it. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
did the same thing. Never ends.
It's a magic
Uh,
items, right? The sink of infinite dishes. It's
yeah, yeah,
because it
yeah.
is. It's infinite dishes.
Never ends, never ends. And like, oh god, if I could do the, and like I hate. It never takes too much time, but it takes so much time to get to do it because I'm like,
But
I don't want to
it's.
do it.
Do you have ideas why you do that? Because it's so boring. I can't
No,
help but
no,
think about.
I get angry. I get angry when doing
Oh,
this.
just get
I
you dread this so much you can't think of
oh, I hate
anything
it.
else
I
but
hate it.
I listen to
The place
podcasts, I listen to music and
I
just
can't. I
I
can't.
don't
I
know.
can't. I cannot
Okay.
do like I can't listen to podcasts while doing something. I have to sit down and I'm going to listen to a podcast. I am like an old man listening to radio. I cannot do something while I'm listening to something.
Okay.
Like my job, I have a lot of meetings and like there's so many meetings
No,
and like
that's true. But I mean,
I can't
repetitive
work.
stuff like dishes, I don't have to think. So I'm just listening to the podcast and
I don't
just
know. I think it's
yeah.
because I don't like I this is new. Like I just got headphones. Like so I had to turn up the volume and then I couldn't listen because
Ah.
the water's louder. I haven't tried it. Um but like the places I like the one that I discovered recently, I started going to the gym this year, like running, and like oh running's so good for thinking, so good. And helps so
Yeah.
much with other stuff. I didn't realize like
It's
for your
great, yeah.
brain and I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, that's the best place to think. You're just like, I got so many ideas now there
It's
because
hard
you
to
have
take
nothing.
notes while running though, right? Because you're
Oh
having ideas.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
because taking notes while running, it's yeah.
I
You
wish it
should have
wasn't.
like you press a button on your headphone and you could record something like, here you go, this
Yeah,
idea
could,
for adventure.
I could do that, but like people would think like I'm weirder than I already am. Like fucking talking like. You know what I do when I'm running? That's
What?
another weird thing. Sometimes I run for an hour, and that's really boring. Like it's so boring. There's nothing to do, and I run in the gym, so it's like, and there's got the TVs, but I
Yeah,
can listen to the
yeah.
TVs. They're
It's
all
like a
broken.
hamster in that wheel, just
I
in the
play
same place.
Magic the Gathering on my phone while I run.
Wow.
They got the arena like app, and I play it, and I bet people who are next to me are like, "What the fuck is he doing? Like, what is he training for?" I'm like, "No, I'm just really bored." And like, it's a slow game, so you can just like I'm running and then I do a move and then I
Yeah.
just don't. Just that's the problem with running. Like, if I'm not having ideas, sometimes nothing comes to mind. Like sometimes it's just boring. It's
Mm.
sadly very boring.
Giuliano, last question. If you could get any of those weird and fantastical things that you are interested in and you enjoy, like researching, and make it real on our world, what would it be?
That's a hard one.
Anything like
That's a
interesting, maybe those games or the fiction you read,
Oh man.
or ghosts or
Yeah,
dreams. Or...
I was thinking maybe ghosts because I'm gonna justify this. I'm gonna explain this. Like I like ghosts to be real because if ghosts are real, there's something after you that I can haunt people, and that's a form of immortality. And I like that. I want to be
It's
a ghost.
something
I
to
want to
do
haunt.
afterwards to not be
Yeah,
bored,
I'm like
dead, right?
I don't want to fucking die and that's it. Like I would like
That's
to
boring,
have
right?
something
Oh,
else.
die. It's
Yeah.
so boring. Just stay there and do
I
nothing.
want to haunt people. I would love to be a ghost. I would absolutely love to be a ghost and be just
Who
like
would you
I just want to
haunt?
watch. I don't know, just want watch. I think I'd haunt my apartment and be like, who's living here now? And then like
Let's see what those people are up to. Those
yeah,
living
I
people.
like or like I'll follow cats around. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's
Like
cool.
I think ghosts for real would be fun. Like magic. I want magic to be real. Fuck it. Like to be able to do spells and like being a nerd has actual perks and like oh nice. Of
Yeah.
course they have real perks, but like come on, like I want to cast magic missile. I'm a simple man.
Yeah, all I want to do is just cast sleep on people that just boring me. And oh, sleep and just go away.
Oh yes, yes, that's good. That's a good one. The low level spells are the best. Oh, one cast sleep, one cast grease.
Or if you're like insomnia, I can just sleep and just go to bed.
Yeah,
Juliano,
that's a good.
are you working on anything now or about to release anything that would talk about or promote any of your past work? We've talked about Brave Zenith, which is our award-winning RPG. We talk about Back to School Zine, which is another famous known adventure. But you have a lot of other RPG stuff too. Uh, if people want to look at your stuff, your material, and look for you in social media, uh, how can they reach you?
Uh,
And there's something new that you want to put out there for people to check out?
I think the number one thing is like Bacto's Terrifying Cuisine. There's an expanded edition. Now it's the original pamphlet. We turned into a book, 30 something, 40 something page book, that is now available for pre-order at spearwitch.com. And it's
Oh,
really good. It's
we're
called
gonna put the
brand
link
new art.
there. Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's called brand new art. It's got way more stuff into it, but it's still the same easy to run adventure. It's got beautiful layout. Uh, it's now a very nice hardcover book, and
nice.
yeah, that's the main thing. And it's like it was good revisiting this old material and being like make it polished and improving the writing. And I think it still stands. It's still a great adventure. Like I have an absurd number of downloads for this thing, and it's like I still get people messaging me about it, and I'm really proud of it. It's really fun, and yeah, it's available for pre-order the new version. And then yeah, and Brazen if I got some news I cannot fully disclose right now, but
Any
we'll get.
any teaser you can share?
Oh, it is a new version, game of the year version that we're working
Wow,
on with very
it's gonna have
nice
new stuff.
new stuff, new better.
Yes,
We're gonna improve everything, and it's gonna have aside from this edition, we're making two new adventures for it, which is something I really wanted to do,
perfect.
and
Yeah, more
they're
art.
really fun. Oh yeah, more art, of
Yes.
course. And I mean, if someone's paying, I'll be glad to put more art in. And two really fun adventures that I'm really excited because they got one is about exploring a abandoned uh pamoya place. I don't know, hash pamoya, you know that.
Yeah.
uh
Pamoja, it's like a dish made with corn, and it's very creamy and can be salty or sweet,
so
and it
sweet. And
sells
then
on the street here, like in
yeah,
every city, I think.
and there's this really weird like fast food version of it that we have on like I don't know if you even have anymore, but like used to be on like highways, and it's like Pamoya Ranch, and it's goofy looking ass place. And when I talk about Braves in, if I would say like, oh, one of the places you could go like the dungeons, like you could go to the ranch, like oh that is a dungeon now, and I actually wrote that, and that is something I got from the Brazilian book that's so good, like the André Bianco. He did that. He's like, oh, this place is haunted by vampires or some shit. I was like, oh, I know that place, and that's super cool. And the other adventure is a reverse murder mystery in a time loop. That one's really fun because it's you've committed a murder, uh, supposedly, and but no one actually remembers who did it, and you're stuck in a time loop until you incriminate someone other than yourself, or you get incriminated. So you got to incriminate everyone. All the NPCs are everyone's lines. There's no
Is it
right
a
solution to this
solo
mystery.
adventure or is it a group adventure?
Oh,
I don't
it's a
know.
group adventure. Like you wake up in your room, the dude you're supposed to protect is dead. Supposedly one of you murdered him, but
Okay.
also there's like so many clues, like and every NPC and like no one remembers the night before, and you're in an inn, and then you're stuck on this time loop because like I'm gonna get into the details, but like the guy has a magical item
guy who got murdered got a magical item that until someone is incriminated, the thing is gonna loop, but it has a limit to how much you can loop before stuff gets weird, and then it gets harder to survive the loop, let's call it. And it's all about playing with the idea that you have the information, like you remember the loop. So now, how can we solve this murder mystery that really doesn't have a true solution? It's really cool, so I'm really excited about that. And that's pretty much it. Like I'm working on other stuff, but nothing that is ready for release anytime soon. You can find most of my socials if you find like at Night Ramen on Twitter, X, whatever, and then you can find my stuff easily there. There's some stuff. Oh, there's I wrote a really cool adventure for Orbital Blues last year. It's, if you're interested in Brazilian cultural stuff, you know, the concept of saudade that a lot of people know about.
Is it out in print yet? Because
it's out in print.
Okay.
It released last year. I have to
try to get it. Was it for the Kickstarter? Because I didn't get it yet.
It was a stretch goal.
Okay.
But it's now out in print. That was really cool. I think things that is available right now. I think that's it. There's some stuff I worked on that's gonna come out by Space Penguin Inc. But I don't know.
From Jared?
Yeah, for Jared.
Okay,
I worked on
nice.
Someone else's book. Like I did a bunch of NPCs. And I think that's it. Like,
great, yeah. It's a lot of great stuff. I'm excited by Neil Bacter Terrifying Cuisine, and I will put the links there and for people to explore and I will check out the adventure for Orbital Blues, which is another awesome sci-fi game. So, Giuliano, thanks a lot for being here and for sharing a little bit about yourself, your habits, and everything that you like and your work. I've learned a lot. I had a great time, and I think at home you'll have it too.
It was really fun. Really fun.
Yeah. Do you have any last message you wanna give to the weirdos listen to us at home?
I don't think I do. I think people here are pretty weird already, so I don't have to give any tips. My recommendations would not be as weird, probably. But check out read House of Leaves. That's it. If you haven't,
great recommendation. So weirdos, that's it. Read House of Leaves. Check out Giuliano work and keep it weird. Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.